Hi, it's me again. So today I want to talk about the awakening, what that means, right? Over the last 5 years, a lot of us feel like we're awakened, and there's still so many people who don't see what's been going on the last 5 years. And so I've come up with 5 personality types to describe the movement from the least awakened people to the most awakened people. What are these personality types? And it may help us understand who is still unawakened and why. Keep in mind, when I talk about these personality types, we all have all of these versions. They're almost like archetypes. And we might have this level of approach to life within different situations within our life. But I'm talking about the last 5 years specifically. Before we talk about these personality types, let's define the word awaken. So awakened means that somebody has started to realize that they've been lied to. So they start questioning the narratives. That's just what it means, right? But if somebody's being lied to and they realize it, then they start questioning the narratives and they start thinking for themselves. This is called awakened. It doesn't mean that everybody who's awakened agrees with each other. It just means that they have stopped and they realize there's a great lie going on. And then as that questioning process takes place, they are more stunned and horrified to how big the deception goes. And now we're in the category of looking for answers and starting to rely on our own critical thinking. That's awakened. Our first personality type is the one that's least likely to awaken and may still not be awakened, right? As we go further, the last one is going to be the most awakened one of these 5 personality types. So the first personality type is the cult member. The cult member is seeing information and seeing their reality through a belief system attachment. It's not just data, it's not just information. Everything fits within a framework that defines their value, their moral standards, and how they're drawing meaning from life. If they question their belief system, instead of having data being correct or incorrect, they suffer a completely destabilizing event where they're losing a sense of self. And so for that reason, they will defend it fiercely, right? These are the people who are actually quite passionate, and they're of course not bad people, because if that passion and that conviction was appropriately placed, it would be a win for humanity. But they've been deceived. Let's, for example, if you're talking about there really being a Hitler, it would be, all of us would agree that we've got to do anything to prevent the Hitler from doing Hitler things. But as that person's going down the road of high motivation to end the Hitler reign, what if at some point the truth was that there was no Hitler, or that it was a lie or a grift? And so has that person repositioned? They may not be able to so easily, because they've invested so heavily in a particular approach to how they're seeing things. For this personality type, they have to see new information first based on whether or not it threatens their framework, whether or not it threatens their belief system. Like I said, that's not always a bad thing. These people could be very passionate, and maybe if aligned with truth, then that conviction actually serves humanity. But if there's an element of deception or a con, then this is what we're talking about awakening to. Awakening is the awareness of being lied to. The next personality category I'm going to call the narcissist. Now, it really isn't a true narcissist, but it's narcissist adjacent, right? So this category is the person who doesn't have any strong conviction. They really just want to look good. This is the virtue signalers. These are the people who wore their mask under their noses, and they know it's a farce. And it doesn't matter to them that businesses are being closed or people are being harmed. They're going to look at information or new data based on whether or not it makes them look good. So if they're following a narrative, it's where's the narrative going, because they want to be on the side of the virtuous people. And that's the lens from which they filter information to. So they don't care that we find out that Black Lives Matter actually harmed more black people than benefited, and that the people who are running it bought millions of dollars worth of real estate, and one of the main Facebook pages for BLM was a white guy in Australia who was scamming the movement. They wouldn't care about that. They only care that they have their Facebook photo with the right symbols because they're on the side of the virtue, and they listen to the narrative to gain virtue points. They just want to look good. So this, in the Nazi motif, this would be the person saying, yay, get on the train, trains are good, get on the train. And they are perhaps one of the worst categories. We all have this in us, at least potentially, but this is the person who is truly self-serving. So they don't have conviction, and they're self-absorbed, and ultimately this is the decay of humanity should we foster this kind of personality type. And unfortunately, over the last 5 years, this personality type was encouraged and celebrated. The third personality type is the person who doesn't know. Like I said, we've all had moments of this. Historically with politics, that's me. I just don't know. I have a view historically that the left and the right are the same and that they're corrupt at the top, and so there's not a lot of differences. We're just sold talking points, but behind the scenes it's like a WWF wrestling match. It's already pre-planned and picked, and so I don't believe in politics. But that is also coming from I don't know. I've been focused on school for much of my life and in a service to others through patient care, and it just all looks like nonsense. So admittedly, there's just a lot that I have not known. Well, in the last 5 years, this would be the person who just doesn't know. They don't know what's going on, so they may follow the narrative a little bit because they have no reason to question it, but when they're given new information that contradicts the narrative, they're able to shift gears because they're receiving information without any attachment to a belief system, and it's not about looking good. So if you show them that masks are less effective or not effective, they're going to take the information at face value. If they find out they've been lying to, they're able to awaken. They're able to go, wait a second, the hospitals were empty, yet they're saying that there's all these death rates and that the hospitals are full. And so something's not adding up, so now I'm starting to question things. These are the people who probably may have took the schmott, but they probably didn't take the booster or too many others because they started to hear and think for themselves. And they were able to awaken quite early, right? Because there's been so many shenanigans. How would you not awaken, right? We had basically a president for 4 years who was a dementia patient. Who can't see that? The person who is in this category can see that and simply go, well, that's not right. The first two categories I talked about, well, you got the cult member who just won't see anything but what they're attached to, and so you have a dementia patient, they just ignore it. And then you have the person who's trying to look at whether they're going to look good. So it's like, are my friends still liking the dementia patient? Yes, then it's like, yay, he's great. And then you have the person who just didn't know, who's now looking at this saying, oh, maybe they voted for him, but they're just in this category of this isn't right. This doesn't make sense. They're able to take new information and shift gears. That's all. That's the point of this third personality category. If you tell the third personality category about 500,000 children that are being trafficked and that the Department of Homeland Security has announced that, so it's legitimate numbers, they're able to be shocked and start to tell themselves and their friends, this is a super big problem and we need to address it. But the first two categories may not even see the information, or if they hear it, it just goes in and out 1 year because it's based on whether or not it affects their belief system or makes them look good or not. We have the cult member, we have the narcissist, and we have the person who doesn't know. Now, the next person is the person who is a critical thinker. The critical thinker was awakened early because they're thinking through stuff. They saw the riots going on, and then they saw the pallets of brick being put before the riots, and they're like, that doesn't make sense. This is a setup. I mean, there are so many versions of that. Why can you not go to the beach, but you can go to Lowe's? Why do you have to wear a mask, but once you get to your table in the restaurant, you can take it off? You had a tiny plexiglass partition, and that was supposed to be effective. You could go to the store and you have your vegetables wrapped in plastic bags, your meat wrapped in plastic bags, and then 20 other items wrapped in plastic bags. You get to the payout and they don't allow plastic bags anymore. This just doesn't make sense. So the critical thinker they woke up early on, right? They woke up early on. They're still not the Jedi in this awakening process, but they woke up early on because certainly there were so many things that simply did not add up. The final personality type, or the Jedi in these personalities, that was the first wake up, I would call the God-centered or spiritually centered person. This is the person who might start to say it even early on as a fight between good and evil. They know through intuition and what we might call discernment. They didn't even have to overthink it. They just knew it didn't add up and it wasn't right. They didn't have to see studies to not take the schmott. They are like, I'm not taking that. I don't know what they're doing, but I'm not taking that. And so this is something where in order to have a level of discernment, you can't be self-absorbed. You have to shed at least enough of the ego so that you're present and you're in the sunlight of the spirit and you get greater intuition versus thinking too much and trying too hard. You just know. I hope this helps reflect on what's happened to all of us and people that we know who are still in different categories, that we can approach them based on where they're at. There's no good or bad person. I think that people are just easily confused, and I think that we are undergoing a psychological warfare for the last few years. And if I'm right, the question is, who is the enemy, right? If we look at Trump or some political theme, if you have discernment or you're a free thinker, then you're going to be the first one to notice when he messes up. You're not attached to him. You're a critical thinker and you have discernment. So you look at something that Trump, you look at Project Warp Speed, where he rushed out the vaccines, and you're able to criticize him. If you're a cult member with Trump, then you're just all about Trump, and it's Trump can walk on water, and then it's a belief system. I don't want any attachment myself to anybody in particular. For me, I'm a critical thinker, and I shoot for spiritual discernment, which I'm blessed with at least some of the time, and the ultimate position is to serve others who are still not awakened. Hope you have a good day. All right, bye.